y'all, I am Hope here at Crafty Hope and welcome. Today I'm working in my junk journal for Junk Journal January. This is a challenge through the month of January that includes some prompts from Meg Journals. I will link her below. And it's just kind of a great way to start out the year and get in your journal. I personally have been wanting to have a daily art practice, and this I thought would be a great way to do it. So, the prompt today is torn edges. This is day 12. I'm sure you probably saw that in my title and all of that. And so that's a pretty easy prompt because I like to add collage. So I'm tearing down pieces and putting them in. Now, that piece I just put down has a bit of candle wax on it. It's something I created when I did the Magpie Journal workshop from Amy Bishop. So there was something she had encouraged us to do in altering some of our papers. And it's not going to make a big deal in this journal, but I thought I'd point it out because it's something beyond paper that's kind of in there. Now, there was a little bit of texture and paint and stuff in the background of this journal page, so I'm kind of leaving some of it peeking through. I totally could have left it not collage, but for me, when it comes to journaling, it's kind of collage is a great jumping off point for me. So I left in my drying here so you could see how that wax kind of melted and reformed and became something else. It's not going to be anything major in the end, but I want to point it out because it's a neat texture that's in there. Now I wanted to add some color, and I grabbed this Americana paint in Coral Blush. It's for some reason, y'all, I don't care for pinks or oranges, but I love this coral color. It's so crazy. And I'm adding what I call finger dots. So I've put a little bit of that paint in my palette, and I'm using my finger to make dots. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. Yeah. All right, so once that is done, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna dry this real quick, but I'm not gonna dry it completely because I decided to break out my brayer and whatever paint is left on there, kind of move it around. So there's like these shadow dots on there that I will end up using, but that paint also kind of gets to be moved around on the page as well. So yeah. And I will grab it's a pen from the Dollar Tree. It's their R2 Rollerball. I think it's a 0.7 millimeter. What I really love about these pens is that when you add water to them, they kind of bleed. So once they set, they're a little more solid, but while they're still a little wet like that, they will move. So that's what I've done. I've circled all my original dots, and I'm going around them with a wet paintbrush to kind of get them to bleed. And that a little bit echoes, you can see the black circles that are on there that were originally on that page for whatever paper was underneath this. So I'm kind of just bringing that back in. All right, so there's a good starting base. I gotta take a sip of coffee there, is what that looks like. I feel like I need to take one now. And I'm looking at yeah. I decided I needed a little bit more color. This didn't quite feel like me, so I have grabbed I believe that's an Inktense colored, what is it? It's an Inktense colored pencil. It is a water soluble, so a watercolor pencil, and when it dries, it doesn't move again. It becomes permanent. So, and this is, I think it's like deep blue or something like that is the color. It's a really nice blue color. So I'm using it because I believe on that waxy piece of paper I had some of that same color on there. So I was like, well, let's go ahead and continue that. And normally I wouldn't put these two colors together, but yeah, since it was already there, I was like, let's see what happens. And it's fine. It's okay. Blue's my favorite color, so I'm all okay with adding some blue to this. And then because I just felt like it was too bright and shiny, I guess, too clean and perfect, I needed it to be kind of aged and grungy. So that is a bit of instant coffee in a yogurt cup that I reconstituted. So when it gets low, I add more coffee crystals in it, and then I just let it dry and will reconstitute it with water. So I am painting around some of those circles, kind of just where it feels like it's not grungy or dark or aged enough. So, and then of course some splatter, because that is, yeah, that's my jam. Everything's got to have a little splatter on it. I will warn you, if you paint with coffee, some of the coffees, this one included, will be sticky for a while, even after you heat dry them. So be careful with that. Take that in mind. I have found, I will link below the coffee that I use, and to me, it has done the best over many of the other instant coffees I've tried. Now, I darkened it up a bit too much and I felt like it needed a pop of white and brightness. So I've got my trusty Sharpie water-based paint marker. I love this thing, and I am making some marks on here just to get a touch of white in here to make it feel I don't know, a little bit cleaner. It needs just that pop of lightness. And I'll even go over, you'll see, I think, when I hit the wax on there, because the marks aren't quite the same on top of the wax, but it's okay. It made me realize what I really want to try is making those marks on wax like that, and then melting the wax and doing something else on top, or carving into the wax, or yeah, I don't know. There's something about wax that really intrigues me. So, oh, it's there. Those marks are on the wax, and they kind of wanted to pull a little bit, so they're not quite as chunky, I guess, as the other marks on the that I made with that same marker. And you can see I turned the page upside down there just to have a better reach, so I didn't drag my hand through the wet marks and everything, because I am clumsy and very likely could do that. Now, this yearbook page had caught my attention. You can see I've used several of the other photos in it. So it was just kind of milling about. I've been going through some of my stash lately, trying to get stuff organized, and this piece kind of lingered around because it was, I don't know. I think I've put it up now. I'm not positive. It could be anywhere. But I tore all the edges around her. Well, not all. I left one straight. So the torn edges would stand out a little bit more, if that makes sense, because it has a straight edge. So yeah. And to kind of make those edges pop, I am using an ink blender with some walnut stain distress ink, and yeah, just going around the edges to make it feel a little more aged and old. And well, and then I'm going to do the very edges with black soot. So I kind of made sure that the brown kind of went over into the picture, but that the black just went on the edges. Yeah, I don't know. It was what I was feeling. And I had this little piece of probably dictionary paper that was sitting on my desk. At some point, I had doodled on. I was probably testing a pen out or something. And I was like, I'm going to bring this in somehow. Y'all, I end up not bringing it in. I think at some point, maybe in a one of the junk journals coming up later, I'll end up using that piece under in some collage. So instead, I've got this other portion of that same page with some of the writing on it, and I tore it down, so torn edge. And then I've got this bit of, I think it's a flour sack towel of some kind that's been coffee dyed, and I'm going to tear it down too. So torn edges, lots of them. I'm bringing that prompt in. And yeah, so I'm tearing that in. More, this is really a frayed edge that I'm trying to get, but I did tear it to get to that. I use my Oohoo glue stick there to just tack that bit of dictionary paper to the back of my photo, because I don't know, that was the line that didn't have the torn edge, and it felt like I was adding an additional torn edge. I don't know, it read that way to me. And I'm playing with this little slip of paper that's slightly smaller in some aspects to that photo, and because I didn't want the fabric to take over the page. So I'm trying to get it so that some of the torn edges of the fabric poke out, but not so much that this little page is overtaken. And I will move some things around and think about it, and finally, I think grab something. What am I going to grab here? I don't know. I'm going to put up my glue stick, and I say, nope, I'm going to go ahead and use my glue stick. And so I put that on the back of the photo, that little stack, and I'm going to go ahead and just stick it all together. And yeah, there's lots of auditioning and decision making, and what am I doing? I don't know. But that to me is junk journaling. That's what I love about playing in a junk journal is the opportunity to experiment and play. So that's what I'm doing. So I've got that little piece. I tore off one of the edges and I was like, well, it would be neat to kind of work that back in somehow. Do I want to put it down here? And I was like, I don't know. That seems so off-centered and weird. How about over here and here? And I am going to move it all over the place, trying to figure out what I want to do with it. And eventually, y'all, look how long I'm staring at this. This is sped up. I should have cut that out. So I ended up folding it here and putting it just over that corner there. And I don't, something about that spoke to me. So I went and grabbed some embroidery floss and kind of a coral color that matches that paint color I have. And I'm going to go ahead and tack down that bit of folded fabric and then do an embroidery stitch that's called a lazy daisy stitch, or I think it's lazy daisy or a petal stitch maybe. I'm not positive, but I know it's lazy daisy. And it's a chain stitch kind of in a round where, yeah, it makes like a daisy petals. So I'm gonna just make this. I thought that gave this page a little bit of femininity and kind of old fashionedness that I kind of wanted to bring into it, especially on some of these papers. Now, I'm trying to see, I was having trouble finding the center there. It kept coming out in a different spot than where I wanted. So you're going to come out from a center point and kind of make a loop and go back into that same center point. But before you pull your thread all the way through, you'll come back in at the edge of where you want your petal and then go over it and back into your thread or material or whatever. And that makes a petal. And then you'll just repeat that kind of in a circle to create a daisy. Now, this could have as many or as few petals as you want, but I think I end up with 5 on it just because it, yeah, there's something about a 5 petal. I might have done 6. I'm not sure. We'll see. We're taking this ride together, aren't we? I've pulled my journal out here so I could take a look and see what I did. It is 5, yeah. So it's just a little embroidery stitch. I'm sure you can find it. Most embroidery books or even online, I'm sure there's a quick tutorial to Lazy Daisy if my instructions are not super great. I'm one of those, I know a few stitches. I have some favorites, and this isn't one I use very often, but it felt right on this little tag that I've created here. So, is that my 5 stitches? Yep. And I thought about it for a minute if I wanted to add my favorite thing, which is French knots. I was like, no, it doesn't need it. This won't stand out enough if I don't do it. So I'm going to go ahead and tie that off and trim it. And then from there, I knew I needed to add in a sentiment of some kind, or am I going to glue it? Ooh, I don't know. So I've got this little box. It's I think an International Delights coffee tin is what it is, of like little phrases and words I've clipped out of magazines and other places. And I'm going to open it, and almost the first thing I pull out of it says Bloomer Girl, which all makes absolutely no sense. I think it was probably a song title because, yeah, I don't know. But I'm tearing the edges of it, trying to get it down, and then I will ink it just as I have the the picture. So I'll ink it with that walnut stain distress ink. But I just thought it was so funny with having that little flower there that I found something that says Bloomer Girl, and it makes no sense, but it doesn't have to. It's fine. So I've got it inked, and I will use, what am I going to use to stick it down? At some point, I think I used some Fabri-Tac, but I'm not positive. So I'll use my Oohoo again to stick it down. And then because that is, I can't remember what I used to stick it down, guys. I think I'm going to use some Fabri-Tac because with all the layers that are on there, I wanted something a little bit heftier than my Oohoo glue stick to stick it down. Y'all are going to see, yeah, I am going to struggle with this Fabri-Tac. It keeps clogging up on me because I took the lid that came with it off and lost it somewhere on that very messy desk and have not been able to find it. So I have been struggling with keeping the nozzle of that unclog. So I keep a T-pin in it to try to keep it, but it doesn't do much. So I've put that down and I'm going to flip it over and stick it on my page. And y'all, with that, I believe this page is done. If y'all have any questions, comments, or just, want to say, hey, please do so down below in the comment box. I should have a list of descriptions that will take you to Amazon. It is an affiliate link, so I get a small portion if you do buy anything after you follow that link. Oh, and I do ink the edges of this page just to frame it up a little bit more. All right, guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching this Junk Journal January day 12. And thanks to Meg and Get Messy for the prompts. I am really enjoying this. I'll see you later. Bye.